Hey friends, this is Rain. So if you're online chronically like I am, you're probably hearing about the exchange between T.S. Madison and NeNe Leakes on NeNe's show. And I didn't really want to talk about this, but it's related to a video that I'm working on regarding the DL Whisperer and the controversy that he had a few weeks ago and the subsequent response to Black women that a lot of people were having in regards to who they prefer to date and why. And, it kind of slipped my mind for a while, but this little exchange between NeNe and T.S. Madison just brought up a lot, and NeNe's being attacked for it. And listen, I'm not the biggest fan of her personality, but the underlying issue concerns me. And that issue is the autonomy of Black women and what Black women are allowed to do, who they're allowed to be with or not be with, and how people feel like they need to regulate their feelings around relationships and sexuality. So I like Erica Dinero generally, but I appreciate that she did this video because it's easier for me to react to what she's saying. I think she did a thorough job in analyzing and breaking down the situation. Based on her beliefs. I disagree with her, but I still think the video was thorough. So I'm deciding to kind of respond to her video as a way to kind of communicate what I think the issue is. And namely, I think the issue is just like a lack of respect for Black women, even from well-meaning Black women, because you're going to hear in the language that she uses a little bit. And I didn't watch her whole video. I just watched like the first 30 minutes. I was like, let me just hop on this. But you're going to hear in the language that she uses what I consider to be like a disregard for women and how they feel about, like I said, sex and relationships. So let's get into watching Erica Dinero, and this is going to be a reaction to her video.
I was in the middle of it. NeNe and T.S. Madison had a conversation the other day. T.S. Madison was on NeNe Leakes show. And in the part of the conversation, they started talking about men, straight men, being attracted to trans women and cis women. Let me make sure.
Can you please just hear me out?
No, all work management platforms are the same. Monday.com is the one you'll actually...
I want to make sure, girl. And so I want you to hear a portion of the conversation. I want you to hear what NeNe was asking Madison, because I think first, a lot of people, I'll let you listen to her, and then I'll kind of explain, and I'll give you what I know, and then what I think about what it is, even though the girls will say what's not. And then I want to read some comments from Madison's post on IG, because that comment section or that post in that thread, there's a lot of different people, a lot of trans women in the comments naturally. And Kat Black, I want to read her comment underneath Madison's post. Was a Kat is always like, oh, she just gets it, like she really gets it.
Nah, and I'll get into that later, but no.
And when I tell you she be breaking shit down, she really gets it. And I think it's because her dealings with men started very early, and it's almost like she understands the pathology of so many type of men who are attracted to trans women, and her insight is just so valuable, and it's so good. It's always, every time I listen to Kat or read, I'm just like, yes, because I love a smart motherfucker. I don't give a fuck who what identity. If you're smart and you understand what the hell is going on, and you are able to identify it and talk about it and be honest and truthful about it. The one thing I liked about NeNe and Madison's exchange in this particular clip that I'm going to play is that, we get down here and we say what it is, and we have all of our theories about this issue that cis women and trans women have with each other, and how cis women really have this energy and angst towards trans women, and only focus on trans women. That women are only focused on trans women because there is a insecurity in the identity, or an insecurity in the feeling of womanhood. And
see, this is where I already feel nervous about where she's going, and why I decided, instead of just watching it, let me just kind of react as she goes on. But to even frame it as an insecurity already comes from the perspective that women have an immature relationship with their womanhood, or a natural competitive streak. And that's not necessarily what it is. The reason why it's always trans women is because, one, they're more visible, they're more prominent, they're more vocal, right? And also, this is going to be controversial, but some might even say that it's just another byproduct of patriarchy, which is that those males who transition into trans women matter more than females who transition into manhood. And also, as women being a part of a secondary sex class, which is the sex class that is oppressed, women have every right to be questioning how words are redefined according to who decides they identify or not identify a certain way. So to even frame it as an insecurity is weird, because now we're talking about a woman saying, I'm not attracted to people who are attracted to that. If she were insecure, that wouldn't be the response. That wouldn't be the relationship she would have with T.S. Madison. And I think, from what I understand, NeNe has had jealous streaks before. It doesn't play out in this way. So to just frame it as insecurity, I think, is really short-sighted. And I think it's, what's the word I want to use? It's short-sighted, and it's a simplistic way of looking at the angst that some women do have around this issue. And that angst is growing. Like, I don't know if you're paying attention to the cultural zeitgeist. I don't think it's just a result of Trump, even though obviously Trump has something to do with it. But I think there are a lot of issues that come along with redefining or defining what a woman is. So I don't think it's fair to say it's just an insecurity. I don't think that's what it is.
And so it's almost as though like they want to fight to maintain an identity only for themselves, even though that's how the programming is so deep, because people are literally holding on to ideas that are so archaic and out of date, and the same ideas, I don't know if it's unknowingly, but ignorantly, they affect you, directly affect you. Because remember, we talk about white male, heterosexual Christian thin. When I say white male, I'm talking about cis men. I'm not even talking about trans men. I'm talking about assigned male at birth and identify as male throughout their life, as a man throughout their life. And how, when you are trying to reiterate to trans people who they like. This is who you are. I don't care what you say. This is who you are. I don't care what you say. You're delusional and all this other stuff.
I don't think NeNe said all that. So I don't. Anyway, let me just watch.
They don't realize that they are enforcing rules that they're directly affect them, especially Black people. Because in the white, cis male, heterosexual, Christian box, Black people are not in that box. Women, trans or cis, are not in that box. Trans men are not even in that box.
This is a logic that I hear a lot of people with Erica's perspective share, and I don't even understand it. Why are you using their definition to define you in the first place? So if you're saying that this box of what a man is and what a woman is didn't exist before white people, like, do they not know? Like, this sounds weird to me. So I don't want to put words in her mouth, but I also do not understand what point she's making here. If you're saying that power is something that's accessed only by, a narrow group of white Christian men, then just say that. But this idea that like you're excluded from that, therefore words shouldn't have meaning to you, or the definition of words should no longer make sense to you because all words were made up by white heterosexual Christian men. Is that what they're saying? I'm not sure, but I hear this logic a lot. And if you follow the logical order, it never makes sense. It never makes sense. But I'm gonna let her finish.
If you are LGBTQ, you're not in that box. If you practice anything outside of Christianity, you're not in that box because they use
What is this box? Like, can you name the box for us? Is it the box of power? What is she talking about? What is it?
Christianity to promote or encourage or enforce the rules, the other rules that are like above that, right? The male identity, the heterosexual identity, and stuff like that, right? And being thin and able-bodied, right? We know that's also something that puts you outside of that box. So I want you to listen to Madison. And
I know that words don't have static meaning, but I would love the box to be named. I need the box to be named. All right.
And NeNe, I want to read some comments, give my commentary. This is a queer space. This is a space for people who are all outside of the white, cis male, heterosexual, Christian, thin, able-bodied. It's like you're outside of that. This is that space. So I just want you to know and this is the reason why I think the way that NeNe approached it with Madison sitting there, although it was ignorant, right? I felt like a lot of women agree with her. And when you come down here and say the things about how you feel that women feel about trans women, they'll say, no, it's not, no, it's not, no, it's not, no, it's not, because they're literally afraid to say what NeNe said.
Well, you have to wonder why they're afraid, because look at the response that NeNe got from people. I don't know.
All the women who say it's not that, it's not that, it's not that, when NeNe explains it, everybody's in the comments agree. I agree with NeNe, I agree with NeNe, I agree with NeNe, I agree with NeNe, right? They was agreeing with Jess a week ago. I agree with Jess. What's wrong with what she said? What's wrong with what she said? Right? So now you're agreeing with me. Now, the kids are on the blog saying, ironically, the whole aesthetic NeNe presents is giving the dolls.
I think I saw the creator that said that. I cannot remember their name. They have a reddish orange hair right now, but to me, this is just proof of like a lack of historical context or knowledge. And I know that online it's very easy to say something started somewhere and for that thing to be true, but I challenge the idea that NeNe's current overworked plastic surgery aesthetic is an imitation of the dolls rather than the dolls imitating women of the past who were into glamour and early consumers of plastic surgery. And that overworked look has its origins with biological women, not with trans women. It's just that oftentimes those who were willing to engage in that work first, one had money or did what they could because they needed to pass, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean that it originated with them. And I don't know how people just accepted that to be true when that was weird logic to me. I think I know the creator that they're talking about that mentioned it, but whatever.
She gives you a doll aesthetic. A lot of the girls do, right?
It's not a doll aesthetic. It's a 2010s overworked, Instagram influenced aesthetic. Heavy makeup that's meant for someone who's going to be in front of lights and camera and filter, influenced by drag, not by transness. I think there's a lot of drag influence in terms of like contouring and all of those things. So yeah, it's weird that they were trying to make the origin trans women necessarily when trans women and biological women are copying makeup trends of that are contemporary. And a big part of that is people being on YouTube and doing this kind of like super, super heavy makeup that's good if you're trying to record yourself, but not great in person.
Just hilarious. Another one. She has been and have gone into her DMs thinking that she is, and her being offended that he was no longer interested. So let's listen to T.S. Madison and NeNe have this conversation. Let me go. All right. Let's see.
Yeah. Well.
Okay.
Do you only know gay men? Well, they gay men. What? Okay, well, you guys be saying that. That's weird. Why? Because what do you mean you don't date gay men? Because if he is sleeping with you and sleeping with a woman, he's something. Well, he's not gay. What is he? He's definitely not gay. He's bi? Listen, because if a man comes here and he looks at me and you, yeah, listen, well, he likes women. Yeah, because he doesn't.
You know what I find interesting? No one's offended that she says she doesn't like gay or men who identify as gay. I don't know. I just find it interesting that is not controversial. But let's see.
No, and if he does know, he likes women. Okay, now, so what is he? Well, that would possibly is a possibility. Is he bisexual? He could be bi or he could be pan. Okay, what was pan? I forget. Pan should be whatever you like, whatever you like. Hearts. Right.
So NeNe is ignorant. Okay, let's go.
So whatever you see you like, whatever I'm on, that's what I'm on. Yeah. Okay, guys. You know, I'm really, do you only know gay men? Yeah, a lot of men are feminine. They think they won't be able to say anything. I don't want to run into them. I don't want to date him. If you dated, I need you to like NeNe. If you dated men, yes. If you dated men, there's a possibility in your life He's been with a man. He's been with something.
See, she slipped.
What do you mean he's been with something? He's been outside. I mean, here's the thing. I know that women consider trans women men because we were born male, but there's a difference between being man and male. I get it, but you have your.
This is a distinction that is always going to cause them problems, because while you might argue there's a difference, the relationship between the two can't be broken. You cannot brag about having a male sexual organ that's 9 inches and then proceed to tell someone that that doesn't matter in regards to your sex and sexuality, and thus in regards to the sexuality of someone who would have sex with you. You can't have both. You can't have both. And the way that so many women have like gaslit themselves into just accepting the inconsistencies as normal is a trip to me.
Your part. That's correct. So he can love you and think you're so beautiful. And there are men with you. There are men who deal with me that won't touch my parts. Anytime you say, does he know it's there? Yeah, he knows it's there. I'm not here. No, you're not.
See, that's an important line, because to me, on the surface, I mean, I've heard mixed things about people who've seen Madison in person, but on the surface, if they thought one thing, fine. But once they know something else, I think it's fair to say that that person is not heterosexual if they are fine with what they're seeing underneath the clothes. Yeah, are you trying to take this dog on a walk? All right.
No, I mean, listen, I don't make any sense. So I've had gentlemen to tell me, yeah, a lot of men have just did it.
There's so many things that she said, oh, you're not? So there's this idea that even this public facing figure somehow in her head is hiding it from someone. Okay.
Well, she may be public facing, but not every celebrity is very different in 2025. 10 million people can know you, and 80 million people still don't know who you are. So it's very possible for T.S. Madison to go unclocked and unchecked and unknown in certain environments. So this to me is not an issue.
Okay, that's that. Then there's this idea that gay men are attracted to trans women. Gay men are attracted to men.
Gay men are homosexual men. They are males who are attracted to males. This is the problem with that distinction that they try to make between sex and gender. This is the problem with this idea that one doesn't inform the other. To be gay, literally the definition of gay is to be a homosexual male. So a male who is attracted to a male is gay. Like, and that's fine.
Not women.
And when your nickname is Big Dick Bitch, you can't really argue against those who would say, okay, fine if you don't want to call it gay, but there's something. You can't argue against NeNe on that. I'm sorry.
So what's happening here, and it's intentional, and that's why it's important to listen and important to try to unlearn what you've been taught, because other people exist. There's not just two. Okay, that's binary. That's like red, blue, white, black, bop, bop, this, that. And when there's actually a spectrum, that's a confinement, right? About trans and cis, one is you are assigned the sex that you are at birth, or you are trans, which you are not the sex that you are not living your life as the sex that you were assigned at birth.
So see, this comes down to a different perspective on what it means to be born male or female, or the idea that you can or cannot live your life as such. If you are born female, that's just a quality, that's a characteristic of your body. It has no implications about the way that you live your life. It is the body that you're in. And for many people's beliefs, that body doesn't change no matter what you do to it. It doesn't change. Right? One way or the other. So you can try to perform or choose to perform something other than what's expected of you on the basis of that biology, but it doesn't mean the biology changes. So they often try to, like Erica is trying to make this distinction between gender and sex when the two are absolutely connected. You can't be a trans woman if you don't start first as a male. You can't be a trans woman in a living trans woman's body without the undercurrent of maleness being there. It doesn't disappear. And it can't be offensive to say that. It shouldn't be offensive to say that.
So for me, I was assigned female at birth. I live my life as a cisgender woman because I am not trans, right? Now, T.S. Madison was born male, assigned male at birth based on her genitalia.
See, Erica, I feel like she's not even sure what this means, assigned or born. Which one is it? Which one is it? You're just born that way. You are born male or female. That's it.
Yeah. She is a trans woman and lives her life and identifies as a woman, even though she has a penis. I don't understand why people don't get that.
I don't understand why you're pretending that people shouldn't be a little confused by that. I don't understand why you're pretending that this is. Yeah, I don't understand why one would pretend that it's just easy to get.
Because I think we believe that our social identity is biological, and it's not. Only biology is male and female and intersex. That's the biology.
Well, the biology is male and female. You can be male intersex or female intersex, but there's no third sex. You're male intersex, female intersex, or you're male without DSD or female without DSD. There's no third category.
But the social construct is man, woman, right? And just because you have a vagina, you are not only in this social structure. You are not only a woman. You can be a trans man.
Right, but to be a trans man, you still have to be female. So again, let's reconnect. Let's discuss the relationship between your sex, your birth sex, and your social experience. right? Because you're born a certain way. The minute they assess your body, they decide what name you're going to have. That's a gendered name, right? What kind of clothes you're going to wear. That's a gendered expectation. How you're supposed to behave. Those are all gendered expectations. So the relationship between the social construction of femininity or the social construction of masculinity is still tied to expectations that are determined based on your birth sex. The minute we see this girl child, the minute we see this boy child, we have a set of expectations for them based on what we observed at birth, which is their sex. So the idea that the two are disconnected, it can't be possible. It can't be possible because even T.S. Madison's concept of what a woman is comes first from observing what adult human females, women behave like, look like, dress like. So her only reference for that has to be those women who are biologically born female and who exist in the world as adult human females. One can't be separated ever from the other. Same thing with a trans man is a female who maybe determines that they do not wish to or don't have a compulsion to participate in the expectations of womanhood and femininity in the society. And so they transition. But that doesn't eradicate the fact that their being, their identity is still tied to that sex identity, no matter what. You don't lose that. And in T.S. Madison's case, I think is disingenuous because T.S. Madison is not, it still has their sex organ. It's not even a whole determinate. You can't even say, to me, you can't say that you're dysphoric in any kind of way and you have a 9-inch dick. You can't say that. You can't say that. So the argument around T.S. Madison has to be, I think, unique given their presentation and their chosen presentation.
Right? Because they are living their lives and identify as men, even though.
What does it mean to live your life as a man? I want Erica Dinero to answer that. Answer that without spouting off a bunch of stereotypes. What is it like to wake up and live your life as a man? What does that even mean?
They have vaginas, uteruses, cervixes, right? And what I was saying earlier, and I'm gonna read some comments. What I was saying earlier is I think because we live in such a male-centered world that the conversation, just like NeNe and T.S. Madison's conversation, where men were the center of the conversation, straight men. When a man walks into a room and there's nothing but eyelashes, nails, hair, wigs, dresses, corsets, heels, all of the women are dressed like that. So
that's not true. Do you see how this ideology encourages you to spout stereotypes that are not true? The aesthetic that even NeNe wears and that T.S. Madison wears is very specific to a specific type of woman, but that in itself is not womanhood. It's not womanhood. So the only way Erica can advance this logic is to say, yes, lashes, corsets, nails, heels. That's the stuff that women historically have been trying to challenge. The idea that in order to be a woman and to perform, not to be a woman, in order to perform femininity and your social role appropriately, you have to be into those things. We don't want to go back to a time where that made sense.
When a man walks into a room full of women and he's looking at the woman, he is attracted to the woman.
Right. And he's attracted to the woman because of the expectation of what that woman is going to look like with no clothes. And a part of that expectation is that the womanhood signals femaleness.
Right. So I'm going to let T.S. Madison and the women in the comments talk, but I really believe because the conversation is centered around straight men, and that makes them straight, right? If I'm attracted to men, I'm attracted to the male man form, I'm attracted to masculinity.
Okay, pay attention to that because the whole discussion involves this, and we're going to see how they do gymnastics to validate one point and invalidate another. You're attracted to the male form, and that form without clothes has a certain look of which T.S. Madison still holds to some degree, to an important degree. And you're attracted to masculinity. So maleness in terms of the male form and masculinity. Maleness and masculinity. T.S. Madison has femininity, but still has markers of maleness. This is important to understand because people making NeNe seem like a bigot is not fair.
That's a hetero type of feeling, right? I'm not attracted to the woman. I'm not attracted to the woman's form. I'm not sexually attracted to the woman's form. I'm not, right? I'm not. I think if...
You know what's interesting is that there's a subset of people who get really upset with homosexual women, lesbians, who also are only attracted to the female form or the woman's form. There are people who call them bigots for only wanting to date people with the female form. So when we say that you can be well-meaning and still promote an idea that harms other people and particularly harms women, this is one of those ideas.
We switch the conversation to what women are actually, what cis women are attracted to, and they say they are strictly dickly, right? And that's only, they're only attracted to dick. They're not even attracted to the man, right? Because if you pull up trans men and show them, you might be attracted to those men.
You are attracted to the masculinity that they display because there is a natural, biologically driven assumption that if they have external markers of maleness, that they will have other secondary and primary sexual markers of maleness. So yes, you would be attracted to perceived maleness, not just manhood, maleness, right? Because there are a lot of effeminate men who still attract women because they still have the male form. I hope y'all are understanding where I'm going at. This is why it's important to understand that gay, effeminate men who are highly effeminate, are still males. They're still men.
Does that make you a lesbian because those men were born with vaginas? No.
It makes you a homosexual if you see that and you are still attracted you are same-sex attracted. You are same-sex attracted. So you can say you're not a lesbian, but you are to some degree homosexual.
Oh, it doesn't. It doesn't make you a lesbian. It still makes you straight because what you are attracted to is the man. That's what you're attracted to. You're attracted to men. So when you see a man and you find them attractive, no matter what is in their pants, you are attracted to the man. It doesn't make
This is insane. This is insane. This is insane.
you a lesbian. So I really, really think because men are the center of the conversation that we really need to switch it to trans men and a cis woman or a trans woman attractiveness to trans men. Now, trans is an identity, not a sexuality. So like
trans is an identity based on a sex, not necessarily a sexuality, but based on a sex. You cannot be trans if you don't have a starting point, right? So the starting point is male, to which you want to adopt or, transition into a social identity that is woman or girl or whatever. And you may want to make sure that your physical appearance mirrors that. So this is another issue, right? Because if you are transitioning from male to woman, oftentimes a part of that transition is making sure that you have the physical markers that are female, not just woman, female, right? So again, that relationship between sex and gender is strong. Even in the trans community, it's strong. You can't say that it doesn't matter, and then everything you say that talks around it indicates that it matters a lot. You just don't want it to matter in a way in which a woman can say, I like this or don't like this. And that is misogyny. Even from other straight women, it's misogyny.
like you would say cisgender queer or cisgender heterosexual or cisgender bisexual, whatever that or cisgender straight. Cisgender heterosexual. So then you'll hear people saying cis het because that's letting you know they identify with the genitalia they were assigned at birth, with the sex that they were assigned at birth.
I don't know. Most people don't identify with their genitals. They just are. They just are. You see why this logic can't apply to everyone. It can't apply to everyone. I have who identifies with their vagina. You just know that you have one.
And they are living their life as a heterosexual person, right? You have cis women who are lesbians, right? T.S. Madison is not attracted to women. She's heterosexual. She's a trans heterosexual woman. So that is where the confusion gets because we've always been taught that people with penises, if they're sleeping together, they're men, one, and two, that's homo, right?
It is same sex. It is same sex, yes.
But that's not in the case. That's why it's literally like, you're thinking it's a delusion. The delusion is that there's only two.
It's not a delusion. I think most people accept it for what it is. Where the line gets crossed is when you try to convince people that you're trying to reshape reality, reshape biology, reshape logic to accommodate the fact that some people live their lives differently. I think most people are totally fine. T.S. Madison's life existence doesn't disrupt anybody else's. It really doesn't. It shouldn't make anyone insecure. But it is fine to acknowledge that someone with a 9-inch dick is not quite the same as someone born without one. It can't be controversial.
That's the delusion. And that's why when I say I have so much respect for trans people, because they break out of the box, the confinements that we are trying to rationalize in our head, like, oh,
but they don't. They don't. Like, and here's the reason why they don't. In order for you to justify the existence of a T.S. Madison, you have to justify and give credence to gender stereotypes. You have to say, if they perform these stereotypes, they are what they say they are. That has to be your logic. So oftentimes, the reason why so many trans women, like in them saying that, oh, she's imitating the dolls, a big part of the reason why, they are often hyper made up and the makeup and the nails and all of that is to reinforce womanhood by reinforcing rigid and extreme femininity. You're not breaking any box by saying that. You're reinforcing an idea that to be female is to have this narrow idea or this particular idea of how women are supposed to behave and perform. There's nothing progressive about it. It's not always necessarily regressive, but it's certainly not automatically progressive.
there's only male and female, and you act like intersex people don't exist, and they do exist.
And this is a problem because intersex condition, they're not a people like an ethnicity or an identity. They have a condition. They have a medical condition. And there's still, when you are male intersex, you're on this particular pathway, and there's some mutation that causes a difference in the pathway, but you're still male. You're still female, but there's something that happens in the pathway in which you're still female. And it's interesting that they're often used and brought up in this conversation when intersex has nothing to do with this conversation. T.S. Madison is not intersex.
So that lets you know, just based on their existence, that binary is not, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist.
It does.
When people say sexuality is fluid, you are attracted to what you are attracted to. You're not attracted to the person's genitalia. You're attracted to their vibe or whatever, however way you want to put it.
I guess I'm fascinated because, like, after a certain age as a woman, you come to terms with the fact that some people are going to like you, some people won't. You're going to like some people, they won't. And you're going to not like some people. But you get to a certain age, and I think we're near the same age, I'm pretty sure, in which you no longer feel the need to justify, because you also know to some degree, you can't help it to some degree. So it's not just vibes. It's like, to this day, as much as I'm somewhat disinterested in a lot of men, if I see a certain type of back, like if I see a certain type of figure, I know I'm a red-blooded woman. It's not a vibe I'm looking at. I can still think that person is a terrible person. There are a lot of good-looking men, beautiful bodies who are awful people. So I'm not attracted to their vibes, but I can still look at their bodies and say they have attractive bodies to which, a heterosexual woman would be attracted to. Yeah.
To their character, right? That's what you see when people are like, what is it, hearts, not parts? That's what Madison said. I'm not attracted to your genitalia. Wayne Brady just came out and was saying like he's pants.
Wait a minute. So you're not attracted to genitalia, but she started this video saying that T.S. Madison is not gay and not attracted to women. So there's something, I guarantee you, T.S. Madison understands that when she is involved with someone privately, she doesn't want that person to have a vagina. I'm pretty sure. You see how it's a very inconsistent line of thinking when you dig deeper into this.
Sexual. He is attracted to whoever gives him what he needs. It doesn't matter what's between your legs or in your pants, right?
Or it just means that there's potential for sexual attraction no matter what a person looks like. That's it. But sex is still at the root of that.
Even NeNe saying that, yeah, but they don't know. You're literally sitting across from one of the most famous trans women on the globe, literally. And in your mind, you're like, oh, they don't, what do you mean they don't know? Yes, they know.
Not necessarily.
And you finding comfort in the idea that a trans woman is tricking the men that you are also attracted to, that gives you some sort of comfort. Like they're not really being honest. Yes, they are. And you are going to have to reconcile that straight men are attracted to women, cis and trans.
I don't know that what I read from NeNe is that she took comfort in the idea that they're different. I don't think comfort is the word necessarily.
Illogical and trans. Natural born, if that's what you want to say, and trans. Whatever you want to call it, girl, the niggas are still attracted to women. So that does not make them gay. The man that's attracted to NeNe and T.S. Madison is not attracted to Malik Yoba.
He might be under the right conditions. And interesting that she brings up Malik Yoba because Malik is also, from what I understand, is a bit of a chaser himself. So,
The men that are attracted to Hope Giselle and Janet Mock are not finding DJ Envy, Charlemagne, Idris Elba. They're not sexually attracted to those men.
You know what I find interesting too? Erica is only mentioning trans women who are high on the passability scale. They're more naturally effeminate. Like if you saw images of them before their transition, you would automatically know that they're effeminate males. She's not going to bring up the Caitlyn Jenner types. She's not going to bring up, I forgot who was the secretary of the Department of Health or something. I can't remember. There's a certain type that they always bring out as examples because these are like the elite ones that are highly passable. Right. And when it comes to the majority, she would not make this argument. It would be highly dependent on the person in question that she's talking about. So she's only going to mention the ones that are hyper feminine.
If they were, that would be homo, but they're not.
As I went through my timeline, I realized that, I was sexualized, I think 5 years old. I started to experiment with my friends.
And when we say update your operating system, deprogram, unlearn, because when you unlearn those things, it opens the space up for the people to exist safely, right? When women who have who agree with me, I only want a man who is attracted to people with vaginas. So then that means that you would be okay if a cisgender man was attracted to a trans man. You'd be okay.
I think a lot of women would be okay with that. I think it's just like, I hope this doesn't offend anyone, but to me, it would be almost the equivalent of like, especially if they're not medicated or are not on a medical transition, to me, it would be the equivalent of liking a stud or a tomboy or something like that. It depends on where they are in their transition, right? So, but if they saw someone who on the external appearance looked male, I would question. I'd be like, maybe you're not totally straight. Like, yeah, and that would be fine. There's no value. There's no positive or negative value to that. It's just what it is.
Okay with that? You would date that man that's attracted to trans men? See, I think we have to flip the conversation. We so focus on the people with the penises. What about the people who don't have the penises, who are living as men, who are trans men? If you are attracted to a trans man, that does not make you a lesbian.
It depends.
So let's listen. I'm gonna go to T.S. Madison's page because Madison, and like literally her name is T.S. and T.S. stands for, back in the day, that transsexual was the term, right? And even then we have updated, it's transgender, right? We've updated. It's like people, I remember when I was younger, I used to hear transvestite. And I was like, oh, then when I got older and I understand the word trans means a cross, but vestir means clothes. So that means the person is dressing the opposite of what the social construct of how men are supposed to dress. So they're transvestite, and vestite means the clothes that you wear. Right. And so then you have to change your language because these people are not just wearing clothes. Their lives they're living as women, trans women.
What does it mean to be living as? Like, because when she described living as a woman, she described a performance that included clothes and lashes and adornment. So it's still rooted in this superficial idea of a performance. So it's still about vesting oneself. It's still about dressing oneself. So did you catch that inconsistency there? I hope I'm not the only one that caught it.
Transgender, right? So even then, and even people within the LGBTQIA, whatever, the irony is that we're adding all of these letters because it's everything outside of white male heterosexual Christian, and anything outside that is considered queer. So that's telling you all.
And this is why there's such backlash against, ideas that come out of queer theory, because it reduces a lot of people's experience to a really narrow subset of ideas. You know, so I do not believe that anyone who's not a white male heterosexual Christian is queer. That is absurd. It's absurd, Erica, baby. It's absurd. Now, that could be your definition of yourself, but you're going to have a hard time getting the rest of the world to agree. Because for a lot of us, a part of liberation means that we don't, first of all, identify ourselves by what this idea of what you think white men believe. I don't even think white men believe these things necessarily. I don't know.
Already that is what's normalized, but that's not what it is. That's not really how it is. And what so many people are doing is running around trying to enforce what it's not, and all you're doing is enforcing all those other things as well. The male identity. That's why the conversation is so centered around trans women, because we live in a male-centered world. And one, as a person born male, how could you? Why would you? Do you see how we treat women in this system? That's one. And two, there are so many women who feel like their rightful position is next to a man, according to their Bible. Right? This is how they use Christianity to support the bigotry. Right? So you think your rightful position is next to a man, and for some, they will not admit it because that sounds crazy that you think that you who create life can be replaced anywhere. That's what
I think that's a misunderstanding or a misinterpretation of a lot of people's issues with this. I don't know if Erica's paying attention to what's going on in the UK, but a lot of the women who were critical of a lot of this ideology, they're lesbians, they're homosexual women. So no, their final goal is not to be next to any man at all, if you get my drift. That's not their goal at all, you know.
It doesn't even matter next to a trans woman, next to trans man, next to trans people, next to non-black people, next to whoever. You as a person born with a uterus cannot be replaced. Whether you identify as cisgender or you're identifying as trans or you're a trans man and you still have a uterus. Trans man and cis women cannot be replaced anywhere. Me existing and a trans woman existing does not shut me out of anywhere. I'm not losing anything by her existing and even sitting next to me and even being if I were in the market to date men. It's the same competition. It's the same competition. And although women don't want to admit that you are competing with trans women for the attention of straight men, that's why you want to call them gay, but they're not gay.
Well, you're not competing. And in fact, y'all are mad at NeNe for saying I'm not competing because I don't want that. So which one is it? If someone's saying this isn't a competition, this can't be a competition because it's a game I don't want to play, then why are you mad? Why are you mad? And if the only way a man can date you is by hiding the fact that he's into a T.S. Madison type, then what is he also saying? That's not NeNe's responsibility. That's that man's responsibility. But she's not framing herself as competition. Right? She's framing herself who doesn't want to be in that's a game she's not trying to play. That's a race she's not trying to be in. And y'all are mad at her for that.
They like you, they like trans women, and they like you. And I think so many women don't want to reconcile that. Most men are pansexual. They are. They enjoy.
If what you're saying is true, the available data that says that a high number of men and women who are not trans have an aversion to people who are, that data wouldn't exist. So the majority of men are not pan. They're not. We do know that there's a high rate of men who will do whatever with anything, but that's something totally different than the majority of men identifying as, either bi, pan, or gay. They're a minority. That is a sexual minority. That's where the LGBT and all that comes in. So I don't know that is true.
Joy whoever will provide them pleasure from end to end, y'all. We are agreeing to these things. And what people who are holding on to conserve, they're saying, no, we don't agree to the progression. We don't agree to the new language. We don't agree to accepting these identities. But keep in mind, those same people don't agree with accepting blackness as an identity.
This is what I call this is a manipulation. So there are lots of people that can say, I agree with everyone living as they choose, but for me, these aren't a set of values or beliefs that I hold. And that should be fine. And the idea that those same people don't accept you, some of those people you're talking about who say live and let live, and I don't have to adopt your worldview, that's the majority of the world. That is the vast majority of the world. I was just watching a video about a bunch of Chinese women who thought that America's gender perspective and gender, they thought it was a joke. They thought the whole thing was a joke. So this idea that anyone who's opposed to the way Erica or T.S. Madison sees the world is somehow like a latent white supremacist, that doesn't track with reality in terms of how the world views sex and gender. It doesn't.
They don't. That's why you have to remember, what am I enforcing? And how does what I'm enforcing affect me? And you don't think it because you're so focused on men and focused on romantic relationships with men that you really think that trans women are replacing you next to men. And I'm not talking to you, but if the shoe fits, buy that bitch in every color. Right. Because a lot of the girls, when you say what it is, they'll say it's not that. But when NeNe comes out and says what everybody has been saying that it is, and that you've been saying that it's not, you're in the comments agreeing with her.
I think you still don't get what it is. I think that's the issue. I think you're reading this in one way and you're not actually understanding what women are saying. So maybe I think there needs to be more of an explanation. And NeNe lacks tact. And I'm sure that it made it easy to come at her. But at the core, NeNe's perspective on this reflects the perspective of most women across races, across ethnicities. It is what it is.
So it is what it is. Ignorant as it sounds, I'm so glad that NeNe was saying the things that she was saying, and Madison was, Madison looked at the camera, was like, "Girl, here we go." Because
it's so funny that everyone's framing Madison as like the highly evolved intellectual person. Both of them are a mess. T.S. Madison has said some really questionable things. T.S. Madison has sat next right next to a homophobe and a person that said transphobic things. T.S. Madison is first and foremost about T.S. Madison. Nothing wrong with that. She has found success for a reason. But this idea that she has the intellectual or ethical upper hand in this conversation, I beg to differ. I beg to differ.
Because there are so many women that think just because there's two dicks in the room, that means they're gay, but not if the person is a woman. And that's where a lot of people are, they just don't want to let go of the only, like, because if there's two penises, if there's two vaginas, that's homo.
That literally is what homosexual means. Sex is determined in part by genitals. Two dicks, homo. It's literally what it means, babe. Like,
okay, let's read some of the comments. Lastly, PrEP is so needed in all the communities, not just LGBTQ. Also because like a large majority, even though the numbers, and I've been reading, the numbers are going down for the amount of Black women who are contracting HIV through heterosexual contact. Those numbers have in the last 10 years are decreasing. So the women are taking responsibility for their sexual health. Like somebody said the other day, it's like you're victim blaming when we talk about HIV rates. No, we're not. We're saying that you need to be responsible for your own sexual health.
Okay, Erica, I'm going to go ahead and say I think you have a lot of internalized misogyny to unpack. Let me let her finish saying this, but I can already tell where this is going.
And really stop trusting these niggas the way y'all trust them. That's the thing. And the thing is, you're so male-centered and pick-me out the game that you can't even fathom not trusting men, even though the reason why you won't date bisexual men and the reason why you won't date men who date trans women is because you have an understanding of a man's relationship with sex.
Yes, and they should be entitled to that understanding. And so the rate amongst women is also increasing amongst women who are in monogamous relationships and marriages. You should not sit here and argue that these women are irresponsible if you're in a monogamous marriage or monogamous relationship and you have the expectation that your partner is faithful. You're calling those women irresponsible. And guess what? Those men who are being unfaithful are the type of men that sleep with trans women. They're the type of men who sleep with men privately. That's where HIV is coming from for Black women. And I'm going to say this very clearly. I do not trust PrEP for women. I don't trust it for women at all. It has been tested, yes, on men. Has it been well tested on women? I don't know. So I'm not buying the whole stay on PrEP thing for women. I'm buying the whole be celibate and avoid men who have sex with men who won't be open about the fact that they're bisexual or gay. That's I think the solution. You know, but it's interesting to me that she frames it as you need to be like what?
And you do not want to accept that these men are attracted to who provides them pleasure, not just pussies.
Right. And so the issue is these women are unwittingly getting in relationships with men who have sex with men who are not straight. They are. And that's how they're contracting these diseases. So if a woman says, I don't want a man who has sex with men or who is attracted to male people, why are you mad at her for saying, I want to reduce my risk of exposure to these conditions and to this particular illness because this illness is more prevalent amongst a particular type of man. And there's nothing wrong with that man, but that's what the facts are. Your only conclusion from this is that the women are being irresponsible. This is an example of someone thinking that they're progressive, but underneath that progression is a lot of stereotyping and a lot of anti-woman logic.
That's why the girls laugh when y'all be throwing your pussies in the girls' faces, because the niggas might tell you to your face, and that helps with the triangulation. As long as I can keep trans women and cis women pitted against each other, that.
Did you know that women are generating recurring royalties from romance novels they didn't even write themselves?
Gives me the anonymity that I need. I can move through these two communities by saying I don't fuck with trans women when I really do, and cis women will back me up if I say I was tricked.
Because no, they won't. No, they won't. That's the reason why people are mad at the DL whisperer. They're trying to root them out. They're trying to root them out and be done with them. So it's interesting to me that she's framing this as some sort of petty competition. And again, I'm saying it's not a competition at all because these women don't want these men. And oftentimes trans women do want these men, but particularly they want men that they think cis women have. That's what they want because it validates their identity as a woman. How come that element is seems to be totally over Erica's head? But all of this, when she talks about women, is petty, immature, insecure, irresponsible. This is internalized misogyny at work. And it's because this framework, this logic, the root of it, a lot of it is misogyny. And it is sexism, the root of it. And I don't even think she knows she's doing this. This is the thing. I like her. I don't think she knows she's doing this.
They haven't accepted that we niggas love whoever provide us pleasure. Whoever. That's why Madison said the niggas are pansexual. Trust it. They ain't gay. They're not gay, they pan.
Madison lives in Atlanta. And I am not a man defender, but I go by research. Research shows there are men who are simply not attracted to this. And there are men who are. But the idea that all of them are is disingenuous.
Yeah. That's what a lot of straight women, a lot of straight cisgender women do not want to accept that because they believe that the pussy is, because they tell you it's a pussy, it's a pussy, the pussy, the pussy. No, girl, it's just warm and wet and tight. It don't matter. It don't matter. And people fall in love with whoever. And then at the end of the day, it's not just about sex. Because I'm sure, like, you see women all the time. They fall in love with other women. And it's like, you didn't expect to fall in love with another woman, right? Are you lesbian, maybe? Or maybe the person is just good character and they appreciate you and they care about you and they show love and they're attuned and they're not exemplifying none of these weird toxic traits. And
okay, so that's an intimate friendship. But oftentimes the intimate sex-based relationship is based on your sexual attraction. And so if that woman is in fact attracted sexually to that woman, maybe she's not as straight as she thought she was. I believe that that's possible. I believe that there are men out there who are a little bit bisexual. Yeah. And that's fine. That's totally fine. But there are men who are not. I don't understand what this spiel is about.
That's the quality that you're looking for. Sex later, yeah, fine. But it's deeper than that too. But I think everybody's just like, your genitalia is for fucking, and that is the only thing that you need to be attracted to the opposite of what your genitalia is.
It's not just that. That is not the only indication that a person is male or female. It's just not. This is disingenuous.
That's not how it goes, y'all. And I think a lot of people just need to let go of that. Let go of that. So let's read. So Black women, please talk to your primary care physician about PrEP. Thank you, NeNe for having me on your show. This is a difficult conversation for a lot of people. Thanks for having fun with me. I think and even NeNe's face, she was like, ugh. And the crazy part is you are going to have to accept that. Listen, like the girl said, hold on, let me go read her tweet. On hold on. I reposted it because it's so true. Here it is. Hold on, let me go here. Here it is. Hold on. We share the same wigs, same makeup, same gender affirming surgery. Getting breast implants is gender affirming. Getting a BBL is gender affirming. Having a liposuction, gender affirming. Having a breast lift, gender affirming.
No, it's not. And I've heard this argument many, many times. But the idea of something being gender affirming only makes sense if you need your gender affirmed by that. There are women who do these things. If they don't have it, they know that they're women. They don't have dysphoria. They might have body dysmorphic disorder, but they're not necessarily always dysphoric, right? So it's not necessarily gender affirming. Not only that, I don't like framing cosmetic procedures and cosmetic surgery as a form of therapy and care necessarily, especially for women. It's coercive. It's coercive. And we know that we live in the digital age where Facebook has already admitted that if they can pick up on your self-esteem, pick up that you have low self-esteem, they're going to market certain things more to you as women. They're going to check your demographic and market it to you to encourage you to engage in these things, to engage in cosmetic surgery, engage in the makeup and the wigs and all those things. So if you post a picture and you quickly delete it, they'll say, okay, that's a woman with low self-esteem, or that's a woman who's insecure about her looks. Bombard her with these things. We can't live in a society that coerces women into beauty and then call it gender affirming as if they're just proudly waking up one day and saying, I'm participating in femininity at my own volition. They're not, so comparing the two to me doesn't really make sense. I don't know. And not all women wear wigs, right? Not all women wear lashes and makeup. This is, again, that kind of repeating this idea of superficial womanhood that comes with putting on a costume and performing. And the majority of women, including the majority of Black women, don't participate in that performance.
Having your arms tightened, having laser hair removal, gender affirming. Because guess who told you they like smoothness? And you're like, oh, I like it too now. Oh, right. Who told you that you should have a bald pussy? Who told you that? Where did you learn that from? Think about where you learned to shave your pussy. Think about it. Think about where you learned that from. And you don't even analyze who taught you that and why do you do it. Yeah, you might like, oh, I just like it for myself, but somebody taught you to do that. Because if nobody taught you to do that, you would have hair on your pussy.
Right, but even before they did, you still had a pussy. That's the difference. Before, if we woke up tomorrow and all of these adornments, all of these procedures disappeared, all of the makeup and the wigs, we all had to wear the same clothes, do you think the distinction between men and women would disappear? This is for Erica. Do you think that distinction would disappear if we had to wake up and everyone wore the same uniform, shaved our heads, same uniform? We had to walk around in this world and everyone wearing brown sweats. Do you think men won't be able to eyeball who's female and females won't be able to eyeball who's male? This is a disingenuous argument.
But you don't, because somebody taught you to shave it. And why? Oh, because hair holds older. No. If we dig down deep into why men like bald vaginas and the way that these men move around about the age of consent, ding, 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 ding. Yeah. You don't want to hear it? Yeah. Oh, no, Erica, no. Yeah. We share the same wigs, the same makeup, the same gender affirming surgery, the same filters, and now the same lingo. Why would you believe we ain't sharing the same niggas? I want a man who likes penis. But then also, while there are men who are receiving sex from trans women who still have penises, the men that they're dealing with are not really dealing with her penis. Some are, a lot are. But there are some men who are like, I'm good. Like she imagined.
Well, I thought it didn't matter, Erica. We thought it didn't matter.
I mean, she imagined. She said it, right? She said it. Some men want to put a pillow. Some men don't want to touch it. They're attracted to her femininity. She exudes femininity. And I think that's another reason why so many, like me, I walk around, I'm not walking around in heels. I'm not walking around in extremely long nails, bedazzled. I am not doing the ultra feminine thing. I'm not doing that, right? Men have been socialized to be attracted. Straight men have been socialized to be attracted to ultra femininity. That's why they can get away with calling cis women masculine, right? Trans women, because
they've called women masculine for all kinds of reasons for a really long time. And I challenge the idea that all men are attracted to hyperfemininity. That hasn't been my experience. I think men that grew up in this age, men who grew up on the internet, men who grew up with early exposure to pornography or a certain type of a glamour look, there's a certain type of man that, yes. And to me, that's the type of man a woman should not want, because he's going to have a difficult time with you aging. He's going to have a difficult time with your pregnancy. This is the type of man who likes a superficial performance of womanhood, not necessarily you as a woman, as a female in a female body, and all of the challenges and changes that go with that. So I'm not sure about this.
They want to live their lives as women. They perform, I always say they perform ultra femininity. They give you everything that the system says how a woman is supposed to show up from head to toe. They do it, right? Ironically, right? Even though they're outside of the system by existing as a trans person, the way they model.
So then how can you say that they're breaking open the boxes and questioning the binary and they're progressive when you also admit that they're much more likely to exhibit and to identify with and to put on, aspects of femininity that feminists find regressive?
Themselves is very much so under a system of patriarchy. This is how women are supposed to show up. Yeah. So we're all dealing with the effects of patriarchy. Trans women too.
I don't know that we can say it's the same because for one group it's voluntary and for the other group it's coercive. And I know that this is going to be something that people may take offense to, but it's true. At the end of the day, if you can choose not to do that, then it is a choice, and not suffer consequences for it, then it is a choice. And that's very different from the minute you turn 5, someone telling you to close your legs, or you must wear this, or you have to have this name, or you have to do this, or come learn how to do the dishes. It's a very different social experience. So I don't know that I would say that they're the same.
Trans women show up ultra feminine. Some do ultra feminine, and that ultra feminine character traits and behaviors are all designed by the white male heterosexual Christian man.
No, it isn't. I mean, I lived in Asia, extremely rigid expectations of women. So just because we're living under this system doesn't mean that if we lived under a different system, that the rules would be much different. Probably different names, different customs, but rules will be rules. Most societies exist based on rules and expectations and social order. So oftentimes when these arguments are made, oh, it's white male patriarchy, if you took all of that away, do you think that there would just be a society of people doing what they want to do? That's just not true.
Right? Because if T.S. Madison and all the trans women if that was being performed by cisgender women, men would not have a problem with it. They might, some of them might, right? You got your titties all out, you're doing too much of too. That's something that is like, we got to hide that. That's you get that. That's a special thing. You get the heels and the sensual waist and the big titties, right? And the makeup and the lashes, right?
I mean, there are groups of women that do that. And those are the women that trans women emulate. That certain trans women, not all, definitely not all. But those are the women that trans women are emulating. So the idea that this look originated with trans women, rather than oftentimes they adopt this hyper femininity that you find in pornography, that you find in glamour modeling, that you find amongst glamorous celebrities, that is what they are imitating.
Just like the girl said, why would you think? And people don't want to accept that. They do not want to accept that men are attracted, cisgender heterosexual men are attracted to trans women.
I don't think anyone is questioning that. I think what NeNe was questioning is, one, that person's sexuality, and two, her attraction to a man like that on the basis of his sexual orientation. Which, I hate to break it to you, this is like, I think research shows something like 60% of women are probably in agreement with her. If you add the women who say that they're unsure, it's closer to 80% of women whose opinions mirror NeNe's opinions.
They're attracted to the woman. So that's why we don't talk about trans men, because the women want to talk about trans women because they're like, oh no, bitch, you're not about to get next to these niggas, and these niggas don't love y'all like they love.
Erica, you have such a poor opinion of women. I really do hope you sit down and rewatch this and just analyze why you think this is the way it is.
Because we have pussies. And there's a news flash. You are going to have to accept that these niggas are pansexual. They like everybody from one end to the next.
Some of them do. And like NeNe said, she simply doesn't want them. And that's okay. So why do you keep framing it as a competition? It's not a competition.
And in all forms, femme, mass, they love it. They do. And y'all are just going to have to accept it. And like, again, they are able to remain under the radar as long as in public, they're talking shit about trans women. But in private, they love it on trans women. They're having sex with trans women. That helps them maintain the triangulation between you and trans women. If they keep talking that shit in public about trans women and also killing trans women, you are still going to be like, oh, see, there's another one. He was tricked. They're not being tricked, girl. They just know that they will have support because the community at large is grossly and severely homophobic and transphobic. So yes, these men be in relationships with these women and walking the streets with these women, and you are none the wiser. And who cares at the end of the day? That's when you get those women be like, that's that. That one.
Why do you think it's only women that do this? Why don't you think it's? I've heard say that they walked past a group of men and it was men that were making fun of them. Why are you acting like it's only women that do things like this?
I was born a man. Y'all love to do that, and all you're doing is trying to provide this man the knowing that, oh, I see you're going to be tricked again. And little do you know, he's probably already been with that woman.
What I'm curious, what scenario is she making up in her head? Because I can't imagine seeing a couple together and leaning over to the man. I would just assume that man knows if you're dating that woman. I would just, what? This is insane.
So let's read some more comments. Thank you for bringing this to the light. For me personally, I will be so happy when men's desire and male validation are not centered around happiness. We as women have so much more to offer, and we're the ones keeping this planet together. All expressions of womanhood, period. I love that. I love that comment. I love it. Like I said, a trans woman sitting here and here does not affect me in any way. In any way. No, I'm not threatened. I'm not afraid. I don't respond irrationally. I just, it doesn't even I don't even think about it, honestly. I don't even think about it. Because for me in my world, it doesn't matter, girl. I don't give a damn what you have between your legs, girl. I don't care. I don't care. And if the niggas love you, girl, yes, take them, please. Girl, let me find out these violent ass niggas, and that's what the girl said. Oh, I want to read Kat's comment. Let me see if I can find Kat's comment. I think it was on the second part. So that's what I'm
Travels, they understand, they get it, they have a career. Me and you, I don't want to talk to him no more. You know? No. Because see, he's not telling me the truth. 9 times out of 10, the guy seemed like he would come and tell me that he's bisexual. So what if he never told me this? He lied to me. You said he wake up and lie. So he woke up and lied.
But how can we make men comfortable to even say that they find other things outside?
I don't know, but I feel like he should tell me what he likes.
But here's the thing: you might demonize him for telling.
I won't. I just probably won't be with him.
Yeah, that's correct. And then men risk they risk losing that. You know, there's some men that have experiences. It's like there are women that have had that experience.
Well, why he can't do to me the same thing he doing to you?
Because I don't have a pussy.
But that's well, okay, right. I forgot. Okay, I don't have a pussy. But see, he's coming over looking at your beautiful hair and makeup. Well, he can't come over and see mine. Well, yeah. Well, what's going on?
Right, it's nothing.
Why are you going to sleep with me then going to sleep with you?
Men like a body.
Oh, please, I don't want him.
Well, shit, I mean, hey, but it's happening.
Her face was turned up like I want him. And the crazy part is, you don't want a man. This is what trips me out. This is what really, when I be like smoking and stuff, and I'm thinking like, you're attracted to men, but the idea of two men coming together, right, and thinking about bisexuality. You think about two men coming together. You don't. Your mind can't. You're like, he's been in contact with another dick, but you will go after another woman, and that's so weird to me. And to me, I feel like there's something that you're not saying about men and their penises that you're not ready to accept. Because if
I don't understand what she means, you would go after another woman. Is NeNe bi or something? I'm not sure what she's getting at here.
you are what you're attracted to, you are somehow averted when you find out that a man he's attracted to men too. If you're both attracted to the same thing and you're averted to him, now that you find out he's attracted to the same thing as you, what does that say about your initial attraction to men?
It says that you probably have a certain set of assumptions about bisexual men, and as a result, you don't want to date them. There are gay men who also don't date bisexual men. There are lesbian women who don't date bisexual women. So, Erica, why are you particularly focused on a heterosexual woman who doesn't want to date a man who has dated men? So what we're not discussing, because they emphasize masculinity and femininity a lot, what is not being said here is that oftentimes sexuality is tied to people's assumptions about your masculinity or femininity. And so for a lot of people, right, masculinity and femininity are on a spectrum. You can be very masculine or not very masculine. You can be very feminine or not very feminine. For a lot of women, a man who engages another man in any way, be they gay or bisexual, is less masculine than a man who doesn't engage at all. It doesn't matter if this is right or wrong. It's just a fact. And it's the same thing with men. There are men who, like you said, prefer hyper feminine women who don't like tomboyish women. And they're strictly heterosexual, but there's a spectrum of femininity that they prefer those who they believe exude hyper femininity. And there are actually men who, if they know you had a homosexual past as a woman, that you have been in a same-sex relationship, who also wouldn't want you. And you know what? That's his right. No one is entitled to anyone on the basis of sex at all. No one's entitled to sleep with anyone. No one's entitled to judge anyone based on that decision. Now, I think NeNe could have spoken about this with way more tact, but to my understanding, she's never been a person known to be tactful. So I don't know why anyone would have that expectation now. But this idea that, bisexuality for some people is a turnoff is not new at all.
I don't think people really think about that. Like, y'all really saying, I don't know what it's saying, but I think it's weird.
It is saying that you associate homosexual activity, whether the person identifies as gay or bi or MSM, men who have sex with men. It is saying that you associate homosexual activity with a bit of femininity as a feminine behavior, and you find it off-putting. That's all it's saying. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing. It just is what it is. For as many women that think like that, there are a lot of women who don't think like that. So why focus on the ones who do? Focus on the ones who don't care.
Like, if I'm attracted to men and he's attracted to men, I understand why he's attracted to men. And if I find out they've had sex together, I get it too. Y'all be going nuts over dick.
She's such a cool girl. She's not like other girls. She's a cool girl. Go ahead and fuck him in my face. I don't care. I'll sit there and record. Go, girl.
Why wouldn't other men enjoy it too? And then once you find out they enjoy dick like you, why are you now averted? What's wrong with dick? What's wrong with the dick? You don't like the dick?
Nothing's wrong with it. You probably just have an idea of what masculinity is to you, and it doesn't include someone that sleeps with men. That's fine.
When it comes in contact with pussies, y'all be following each other. Funk puss after funk puss. Following each other. Y'all will literally have sex with a man who's had sex with multiple women unprotected, and you would literally
look at how she describes female genitalia. Funk puss. Babe, you gotta get it together.
He still have sex with him. But then somehow when he's come in contact with another penis, all of a sudden it's like, what's wrong with the dick? You like it? You know what I'm saying?
Over it. But these things, this is what
That's why I'm not even dating. I mean, I'm dating, but I'm not. I mean, I don't know.
You can't hold yourself to a dating standard because you're afraid of a man. That's not the worst.
So you think it's okay for me to sleep with a guy that's sleeping like that?
Well, if he's sleeping,
I didn't say like that.
I don't know. I think that if he's bisexual, but here's the myth about bisexual.
You think I should be taking PrEP?
Yes. I think that all women should be taking PrEP.
Really?
I'm not a fan of that idea at all. I think before you start doing that, consider celibacy or consider taking the demographics out of your dating pool. But I don't know, the idea of being on PrEP long term for women, I find that off-putting personally. Your life, though, especially if you live in Atlanta, your life. You got to do a cost-benefit analysis.
Yes, because a friend of mine told me she's taking it.
Come on.
Yeah, she told me too. I think that all women should be taking. I think that all women should take whatever necessary safety precautions.
Yes,
because of the men.
be responsible for your own sexual health. Y'all keep saying, "Oh, but we're blaming men for the high HIV rates in heterosexual women." But then, how do you take accountability for that? How do you take responsibility and accountability for the high numbers? You can't keep blaming men and their risky sexual behavior.
Yes, you can. And to do anything else is victim blaming, Erica. I hope you know that. I don't know if she's ever been married before, but this is victim blaming.
You cannot do that because that's never going to stop. You are going to have to take responsibility for your own sexual health and stop trusting men. Like,
This is how you turn reasonable people into conservatives. I think if you were dating someone and you've asked them about their sexual history and their sexual health, I think if you are married to someone, remember, married women are now one of the fastest growing groups of having these STDs and STIs, you can have a reasonable expectation that that man is not going to bring you a disease. It is fair. Because the root of heterosexual relationships and family building is that you have to have trust. You can't make children without condomless sex. You can't. So it's in the nation's interest, actually. It's in society's interest for women to trust men that they're in relationships with to some degree, despite the fact that, men are not terribly trustworthy. So even though, yes, women are responsible for their sexual health, ultimately, the responsibility and the fault and the blame lies with men who infect women. It does. And it's just very interesting to me how she speaks about women, speaks about their body parts in relation to this. Very misogynistic.
that's the craziness about it. You love these dicks and you trust them so much, and the HIV rates are skyrocketing. Not because they're having sex with trans women, it's because they're having risky sex. And men have risky sex. That's
risky sex with who, Erica? Women don't give men HIV. I'm gonna keep saying this on my channel. Women don't give men HIV. Look it up, Erica. So they are having sex with men, or they're having sex with people with penises. I hope she sees this. I hope she sees this because this is like breaking my heart right now.
That's why all these drugs are always tested on them first, because they know they're the ones out here getting pleasure from whomever will provide it. And the women,
and the whomever in question is male. But even if they're just born male and don't identify as male anymore, the whomever in question that they're getting HIV from is male.
Oh, well, we just trust men. We're male centered. We love men. We put men first. We have dicks on our
Look at how she talks. Look at how she imitates. This is crazy. Okay.
altars. We just trust everything they do. So now when we're the highest rates of HIV cases, we can blame them. No, girl, that has got to stop. Not 2025, not in the year of the Roomba and the electric car, girl. No, your houses are being powered by solar energy. It is time to take responsibility for your sexual health, period. You can't keep blaming men. You can't. You have to trust them.
You can do both. You can blame them and you can take responsibility. I think the most responsible activity is to just leave them alone. So if NeNe said, I am averse to men who are statistically more likely to carry these conditions because they engage males of different identities and sexualities, you are going to roast her for that. Apparently.
You're married to them or not, you cannot trust them. You cannot trust them. You cannot trust them. You cannot trust them. You have to trust yourself and take care of yourself by getting on. There's so many thousands of women out there. That's for people who have sex with men. Hello.
No, it was studied on men who have sex with men. There's a reasonable reason why a woman of reproductive age should be careful taking a drug like that long term. There is. And if you weren't so male identified, you would acknowledge that women have a unique reason why they may be concerned with the long term effects of that drug.
Identify as heterosexual, bisexual, homosexual things. I think that all women should be taking the necessary precautions because men. When women really understand that men are a creature of curiosity, they're a creature of.
We all are. Not just men, Madison. Everybody. That's the thing. Everybody should be allowed to have healthy sexual exploration and find who they get pleasure from. And everybody be fine with it because sex should be pleasurable. You should be having pleasurable sex. You should be not having sex, trying to be in secret. For some men, they get off on that. Some women get off on that, being secretive about that, right? But in real life, like, who gives a fuck, girl? It feels good. It feels good. As long as everybody is safe and everybody's consensual and everybody is an adult, nobody should give a damn. That's the crazy part. And y'all claim all the time, oh, we don't care what y'all do in your bedrooms. Yes, you do. And you should. Because you need to be protecting yourself. Because y'all out here trusting the patriarchy. And the HIV rates is looking crazy as fuck. And you're victim blaming, you're blaming. Yes, I am. Because you have to take responsibility.
Well, at least you know what you are, girl, because this is not cute. I didn't get this far when I first watched it. This is not cute at all.
Count. How do you count? We do it all the time. How do you count? You start counting. Accounting is to be accountable. Accounting means to count, to take account, to take inventory, to look at what is out there. And the numbers say that Black heterosexual women are the highest number of new HIV cases. Yes, the numbers are going down, but we're still the highest of the new cases, even though the numbers are going down. So now that you've accounted for that, now it's time for you to respond. How do you respond to what you've accounted for?
I'll give her that. Respond by stop sleeping with them. Leave them to others. Leave them to others.
Accounted for all these Black women, heterosexual Black women are contracting HIV. How do you respond? Oh, there's an option. You guys can take PrEP because y'all not putting the dicks down, clearly. So get on PrEP so that you have an understanding that I'm responding to this. I'm going to put measures in place so that I don't become that. So I'm going to respond to what I've accounted for. That's how you take responsibility.
I'm trying to think of another community that would know the stats. That let's say that they had stats that mirrored the Black communities in terms of women contracting HIV from men. I feel like the societal response to it, the way laws will be constructed around it, would change. And it wouldn't even be because those societies care about women more. It's because they would understand how valuable women are in the production and reproduction of a community. So it's so interesting to see. I was on TikTok, see all the gay Black men and their misogyny and their misogynoir, and now to see a straight Black woman, or a Black woman and her misogynoir, and the way that everything is always framed as predominantly the woman's fault. And you wonder why there's certain dynamics in this community. And then I look at others. I looked at places where I've lived, in which I'm not saying these places aren't misogynistic. I'm not saying that they don't have issues with women, but there's an understanding of women as a resource, as a valuable resource. It's the same thing with paternity and child support and all these things. Black men not understanding that it's not in the government's interest to let you off the hook for not taking care of your kids. Like, it's just not. You know, it's unfortunate how this entire conversation is her roasting women for being women, essentially, and for being women with sexual preferences and gender preferences, while trying to convince us that someone whose nickname is Big Dick Bitch is as woman as NeNe is the same type of woman NeNe is. It's absurd. And I think that you can accept and love Madison without pretending that they're the same. And I'm gonna stand by that. You can accept and love trans women without pretending that it's the same.
Gotta stop blaming straight. And that's why I say all the time, straight is a term that you use loosely, because that is literally just telling somebody you just are having sex with the person on the other opposite sex. But the reality is people are having sex with whom they get pleasure from. And when they get pleasure from those people have different identities.
I think this is important to hear, because a lot of people say that gender identity and gender ideology is homophobic and anti-sex. And this is someone denying that heterosexuality is real. Now, if I came out and said homosexuality is fake or bisexuality is fake, you would sound crazy in 2025. So she believes in the validity of all that. She believes in the validity of one changing their gender or sex, but the idea that someone is strictly attracted to people of the opposite sex is a bridge too far for Erica. It's crazy.
They're not always cis women. Okay, I have to go. I'm gonna come right back. Okay.
Using the right weight matters. The Body Pod lets you easily understand what is the fastest way to reach your health and fitness goals at an accuracy of 98%.
We back? Okay, we're back. So yeah, this is gonna be a long video because there's so much to say. So I want to read some of the comments from Madison's post, and she came back out and left another post that said, "Okay, since the men who truly identify as gay or homosexuals that like men, tell me how many transgender women you date." As a gay man, NeNe ain't said a damn thing wrong. As a gay woman, I 1000% agree with you. Thank you, sir. The way these folks are triggered. So since gay men have joined the chat, help me understand how my logic is off. So let me read Cat Black's thing. So my comment was, I think so many cis women are transfixed, no pun intended, on trans women because of their direct competition to gain access to straight men. I think that cis women need to see I think what cis women need to see are trans men visibility, and then ask them if they are attracted to trans men, does that make them a lesbian? Cis women refuse to admit that men who like them like trans women also because they are women. I would show these cis women trans men and ask them the same question. If seeing a group of trans men, if you find them attractive, are you considered a lesbian?
Let me repeat this one more time. So if you see a trans man who actually passes as a man, because many of them don't, but let's assume they all do, and then you later find out that they're not actually male, and that they don't have male parts, and that, for instance, if you want a long-term relationship, they could not father your kids, and you lose attraction as a result, there is nothing wrong with that. So what Erica is asking is, can someone effectively, I don't want to say deceive because that sounds nefarious, but can someone effectively trick your eye into thinking there's something that you realize later that they're not quite what you want? And the answer is yes, that could happen. Erica, this is not a big gotcha. This is not a gotcha. Some people pass. But at the end of the day, a part of that attraction externally is also assumptions about what you are like with your clothes off, right? Sexual attraction, the root of sexual attraction is sex, and the assumptions about what your sex parts look like. So it's not just personality. And attraction is complex, right? You can develop more attraction for someone and less over time. You can be in class with someone and not find them good looking at all, and 2-3 weeks later, they're on your mind, right? And you're physically attracted to them, where 2 weeks ago you didn't even notice them. Sexual attraction works that way. Or they say something, you're super attracted to them, they say something, they tell you a story, and suddenly you're put off. They're off-putting. That happens too. So if that person appears attractive and then you find out later that they're trans and you decide that you're not attracted to them, that's your right. Should you go there and be transphobic? Should you say terrible things to them? Should you lack tact? Should you do anything to harm that person or to make that person feel less than? No, absolutely not. But who you choose to engage with sexually and in terms of your romantic relationships is entirely your choice, and it does not have to be a politically correct choice at all. It doesn't have to be a choice that you explain to anyone other than this is what my body wants or this is what my body does not want. That's the extent of your explanation. And if you believe anything else for women, Erica, you are a misogynist, because I guarantee you wouldn't sit in a room full of trans women and dictate to them what they're supposed to be sexually attracted to or not attracted to. The first thing Madison said is that Madison does not like gay men. And I guarantee you what she means is Madison doesn't like effeminate males. I promise you that. I promise you that. Okay. But women like this who think that they're, I don't know, cool girls, cooler than other girls, they'll overlook stuff like that. They'll overlook the inconsistencies and the hypocrisies. I don't know if it's to sound progressive or what, but it's easy to catch. When you start to catch these things, you'll hear it all the time.
I think we have to like shift the conversation, because too many women are in competition with trans women, even though they say that they're not. Right? That's the reason why the women don't like bisexual men, because they're already competing with women.
It's not about competing. It's about ideas around femininity and masculinity, and those ideas might not be fair, but they exist. It's not about competing, right? Because your real competition for the average man is other women. It really is. Most men do not engage in that behavior. That's a fact. Most men don't.
Right? So they want to compete with men also, but then you have trans women. And so in your mind, you're still thinking, oh, you're still dealing with men. And so then you call them gay. They're not gay, they're attracted to women. I think we covered that. So here's Kat. Oh, it's long. So she said, we're limited. If so-called biological women were aware of just how many men like transgender women, they would not be able to handle that reality. The way so many people talk on this post, you would imagine that it's really uncommon for men to be attracted to transgender women. However, the reason many of us take this position we do is because so frequently we are pursued by men who are in relationships with so-called biological women, or have a dating history that is predominantly of so-called biological women. Because transgender women or women, they are naturally going to attract men who are attracted to women, and that is not something anyone can control. But I think that more of these so-called biological women would benefit from asking themselves why they want to do that. Why is it that you want to control who someone is attracted to?
No, they don't want to control it. NeNe's saying, I don't want that man. So that's not control. That's saying, go do your thing over there. Why are you framing it as control? And I'm going to say it right now. Cat Black, I'm not a fan of. I think Cat Black has a lot of internalized misogyny. I remember Cat Black online before the transition. So I'm not buying this whole idea that she has insight into women's behavior or women in general that, other people don't have. I'll stop there. But Cat, that's one you got to watch.
Are you offended by the idea that your man would be attracted to a transgender woman because you think that would mean something less about you? Why is that? My experience with most men is that while there are plenty who see transgender women as vastly and distinctly different, there are a lot of men who don't. They're attracted to transgender women. Really, their attraction to transgender women really doesn't say much at all about their attraction to you. A lot of men don't necessarily see that attraction as different. I think some of these so-called biological women would benefit from asking why.
And notice how Cat keeps saying so-called. Cat is I think, I'm going to go ahead and say it. I don't care. Cat is jealous of women. Cat is very jealous of women. Cat is catty. But because they get so much praise for their quote unquote social justice work that they do, people overlook the constant digging at women, especially Black women. Cat is jealous. And all I'm gonna say is I've seen Cat in person. She should stay on the internet if she wants to convince people that she is indistinguishable from them.
It needs to be. TS is asking this question because while many of you are swearing up and down that these men are gay, we also know that gay men aren't typically attracted to transgender women. So no matter how many times people who are neither gay men or transgender women say so, and someone being a lesbian or a gay man does not really give them any sort of insight into trans experiences, right?
Right. They may not be gay, but they're not straight. That's all NeNe was saying. They're pan, they're something. They might not be gay, but they're not straight.
The experience we have is that when men express attraction to us, 9 times out of 10, when you ask them how they identify sexually, they're going to say heterosexual. Very few of the men I've personally interacted with have identified as anything other than straight. And I'm not someone who really sees straight as an identity as validating at all. I would even say I don't even like to date straight men. Cat always comes with the bazookas. She always does. It's always just very plain. And that's why I like to speak very plain. I like to speak to people who just you cannot understand. I'm going to explain it to you like I'm teaching it to you. I'm going to repeat. That's just how I teach, I guess. Okay, let's read some more comments. Here's Rodney the Voice. Rodney the Voice is always as a gay man lurking around the corner thinking she'll receive different treatment. I remember Lenithia saying seasons ago on RHOA to her gay associate, can you please stop being gay for 5 minutes? On that note, I'm gone. Kaden Official says, I hate that shit as a gay man, as though them being gay gives them the right to say what's transphobic and what ain't. Like, shut your ass the fuck up. Kaden is a trans man. Here's Kaden. Let me show you Kaden. And what Kaden does, he goes around the streets and asks people, if I were in the women's bathroom, would you have a problem with that? And people are like, yeah. And he's like, okay, I have a vagina.
Okay, so I have a question for Kaden. Do you believe that you should be an exception because you pass? And if a person doesn't pass, then what? Like, these aren't the gotchas they think that it is. But I would ask Kaden, if you were to get arrested, are you going to a male prison or a female prison? That would be the question I would ask in return. Are you going to jail? Are you going to be in the same jail with Diddy? Or are you going to be in jail with, I don't know, where Gypsy Rose was? Where are you going? Where are you going? How about that?
Would you want to see Kaden in your bathroom, in the women's bathroom? She was assigned female at birth and has even given birth to children. Yes.
I'm going to say, never mind.
And he literally goes around and asks people, let me find a video of him asking this woman if they would see them here.
What do you think my channel's on? Are you old enough to be here? No, I think you're way too hard. I'm walking down the street.
Because you asked, I'm going to say female.
Because I asked. I said I'm walking down the street.
If you want male.
You're still lost. Well, you were right. I have a vagina. What bathroom should I go to?
What bathroom you go to? Male or female?
You're trying to be political correct.
Because if you have a female part, then go to female bathroom.
So she went to the bathroom. And I'm like, yeah, me too.
Would you want to her?
Would you wonder why I was in the bathroom?
Yeah.
Okay, so have you guys heard of all of the talk around trans people and bathrooms and trans kids and all that good stuff? So what do y'all think? Do y'all think that trans people should go to the bathrooms that we're comfortable going to with the gender we identify with, or should we go based off our genitals?
That's tricky when there's kids involved. What's tricky about it is that someone could just put on a man that's a creepy or rapist or something, just put on a woman's clothes and be accepted in a woman's bathroom and no one can think about it and then do something bad.
Historically, have we ever known men to put on wigs and things if they feel like they want to rape somebody?
They can.
Have you heard that?
Yeah.
Where?
Yeah, on ID.
On ID? So they stuck into the restroom as a woman?
Yeah, I've seen almost every episode on there. So yeah,
that's interesting because
I mean, it's interesting that this is being brought up because Lily Tino is lighting the internet, is lighting TikTok and Instagram on fire. And there are people even within Lily Tino's community that hate her for it, right? So they're saying this isn't a real trans person. That Lily Tino. I would say look at the Lily Tino case, and that's when you know that these ideas don't necessarily hold up consistently across the board.
There hasn't been any credible for bathrooms. And but they do it. But we talk bathrooms, right? What do you go to the bathroom for? People. Okay, so for going to the bathroom, people, in your lifetime, for you, in your experience, have you ever witnessed a man in a wig trying to enter the women's restroom?
No, but it doesn't mean that hasn't happened. I haven't seen a lot of things that has happened, but things happen.
Okay, I'm only asking to get your wheels going, right? So again, like you just said, if I didn't tell you what my genitals were, and I walked into the bathroom behind her, you would ask me what the fuck I'm doing in the bathroom. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so do you think that you're always going to know if somebody's trans?
No.
Like, how would you think that the most appropriate way to gauge that would be?
I don't know.
So do you think that trans people should go to the restrooms with the gender they identify with?
Yes, they should.
And creepy people should stay out of the bathroom? You agree to that?
No, yes, that's it.
How about we just agree that nobody should be assaulting anyone in any capacity? Sounds good? What do y'all think my genitals are?
This Kaden. That's what I'm saying. Like, this is Kaden. I just have to, and if you're attracted to Kaden, if you find Kaden attractive, are you a lesbian? Hold on, let me find another image of Kaden so you can see. And I think more folks need to, that's Kaden. So if you're attracted to Kaden, you find Kaden attractive, are you lesbian?
And if straight men are only attracted to biological females, these are biological females.
Right. I find somebody trans men, you would be like, oh, girl, wait a minute. Wait.
Right. Upon initial appearance. But when it comes to sex, sexuality, intimacy, relationships, it might change one's perspective and one's perception, and there shouldn't be a problem with that.
Wait a minute. That's Kaden. Kaden has biological children. He had children with the uterus, right? That's what I'm saying. A lot of the times you can't say stuff like that. Heterosexual men are attracted to femininity, which is why a lot of them are attracted to trans women, even though they don't admit it. But they do admit it when they show their attraction. Period. When you show you're attracted to a trans woman, you're not saying I'm gay. You're attracted to that expression of womanhood.
You're attracted to an expression of femininity that is supposed to indicate that you are female. That's why female, femininity, the two are inextricably linked. So it's not unreasonable for a man to be attracted to a trans woman who passes, but it's also not unreasonable for that man to lose attraction once they find out that the trans woman is a trans woman. Both are fine. And there's some men who will not lose attraction. There's some men who will be more attracted, and there's some men who will be less. Why is that a problem? Why is that a problem?
Expression of femininity under the construct of a patriarchy. Be very clear. Because that's where non-gender conforming and non-binary people come in, because they say, I don't identify with either. So how I show up in the world, bitch, you will never, like, I can show up with a beard and some nails and some lashes like Santana. Because I'm not conforming to what society says my expression of womanhood or manhood should be. I'm not conforming to those. I'm non-conforming, gender non-conforming.
Most men and women are gender non-conforming to some degree. It's interesting that you think that in order to be that, you have to be a saucy Santana type. And I don't even think Santana identifies as non-binary. Santana is a man. So most men and women to some degree are gender non-conforming, because gender is just a set of expectations, and you don't necessarily have to want to abide by those expectations. This is not like super deep.
And those people exist, right? Somebody said, you need to fight somebody else. All NeNe is saying that she only wants men who are only attracted to biological women, and I agree 1000%. No one is hating on trans women or men, just how LGBTQ plus want respect regarding their beliefs and desires, so does all of humanity. A man attracted to a transgender woman is not a straight man. A straight man is a man that is only attracted to biological females, birth assigned females. That is literally not true. And you're saying it because it's almost like you're trying to tell yourself that, and you're trying to reaffirm some old belief systems.
No, they're saying it because they feel it, and they feel attacked, or they feel, they feel attacked, or they feel degraded for that choice. And it's interesting that you keep showing pictures of the people who are the most passing, which we know isn't necessarily the case across the board. And do you want a world in which only those who pass the most are the ones that you acknowledge deserve, I don't know, rights of the gender that they identify with? So this can easily be a slippery slope
that need to be updated. I want to read some of the comments. A straight heterosexual man can most definitely be attracted to a trans woman. Attraction does not equal sex. Beauty is in the eye, not the loins. They can definitely be attracted to trans women.
Beauty is in the eye and impacts the loins. They're connected in the same body.
I just think if a man takes or touches another penis, that he isn't straight, which is okay, but an actual straight man wouldn't be able to go that far. Another point of view when you care about someone's feelings. Girl, I'm trans and agree with you. Now, I don't know exactly what NeNe said, but I think the issue is that girls go too far trying to come across as equals, not in the sense that one is better than the other, but that it's certain girls where they better fight proving insignificant things rather than just living. How that man identifies is no one's business but you and him. In my personal opinion, it doesn't make him gay because he's not attracted to men, but he isn't straight because you don't share the same parts as a cisgender woman. Pansexual, maybe?
See, I'm so glad she read that comment, because there are reasonable people out there. You are not.
Another term I learned recently was gynosexual, which is attraction to femininity. Regardless, it's its own thing, straight is straight, and it's always been. But the crazy part is, with understanding that there is a spectrum, literally, when we talk about, the gay agenda, it's literally a straight agenda. It's them making you like, okay, this is how it's supposed to go. This is always constantly feeding that to you. So then when you grow up, you're like, no, if I have a vagina, I'm supposed to be attracted to people with penises.
No. The same way that homosexuality is natural, heterosexuality is also natural. Sexuality, to some degree, is natural. It's also, to some degree, socially influenced, for sure. But sexuality is natural. And I don't even think she realizes that this is a slippery slope. That this is a slippery. If this is a slippery slope, are you saying that we're all naturally gay and then we're forced to become straight? Because that's as absurd as saying that everyone's naturally straight and some people are forced to become gay. Some people, just like the Kinsey scale, right? Some people are extremely straight, some people are extremely gay, and most people fall somewhere in between. Most people fall somewhere in between. I don't know why she can't just accept that as a truth without pretending that it's just impossible to be someone who's not attracted to people, you know, of the same sex or opposite sex or whatever.
I'm supposed to be. No, you're not. Like I said, supposed to be is what fucks a lot of people up. What people think what people are supposed to do, it fucks a lot of people up. It does. Okay, let's read some more comments. This is one of those unfortunate delusions. Believing trans women are gay men keeps them safe. Opening up the idea that straight men are attracted to trans women creates a dynamic of competition that is not actually non-existent and very hard for people to reckon with. Do you see the way she very much in the moment could not shift her view in the presence of new evidence? It is cognitive dissonance. This is the definition of delusion. We all know that straight men entertain the dolls, and she insists that no, they're gay. Again, it's unfortunate, especially when someone was lovingly sharing the truth. This was her opportunity to learn something new, and she sat there and deliberately chose ignorance instead. Like she was literally shaking her head, like, no, I'm not going to accept it. I'm not accepting that. And then there was
and that's her right. That's her right. Move on.
Another conversation, another comment that I thought was interesting. Hold on, let me find it. A man who are trans attractive might also find NeNe attractive, since she's now sporting one of the trans women's go-to aesthetic with her newest look.
Okay, so just because it's a trans go-to aesthetic does not mean it is a trans aesthetic. It's an aesthetic that trans women also have adopted. So, and it's interesting because I think it was T.S. Madison who was deriding NeNe by calling her trans. So, is it offensive or not? I don't know.
That's another thing. And then you'll say, like, yeah, what do you think? Like, it's like, you think trans women are getting and they will say, I get my behavior, I learn how to do my things when I watch other women. And other women, that's not something that comes naturally. You are socialized to believe that women are supposed to show up a certain way in society.
Well, to some degree, yes, that's true. But there are also behaviors, I think, that are to some degree innate, which is why oftentimes a male is effeminate when they're very young. I don't necessarily think that they're always imitating women. I think they might have an inclination in their behavior to behave a certain way, and that's natural. I believe it's totally possible to be an effeminate male naturally, and it's totally possible to be a masculine female naturally to some degree. Now, the social expectations placed on you as a result might mean that boy's going to have a hard time socially, or he's going to be, mistreated in his family or in his friend group or in his church group, and that girl's going to be mistreated. But the idea that all of this is a learned performance is simply not true.
That's what they tell you, you're not ladylike. You shouldn't be cussing. Why aren't you smiling? Why aren't you? It's a bunch of shit. And so who do trans women watch? Who do studs watch? And their inspiration for how they should act from? Who do they get it from? Men in society. That's a socialized behavior. You're not going to tell me that a woman grows up and becomes a stud and starts acting like a toxic man. She's socialized. She's learning the socialization. That's why
But why is she inclined to do that in the first place? Right? Because that's not a set of behaviors that was necessarily meant for you to pick up for you, but you might have this inclination for some reason to adopt them or to identify with them. Right?
Adopt the behaviors. And that's why so many women who are in relationships with studs, it was like being in a relationship with a socialized man, because they're taking on the same social behaviors to express a masculine energy.
Right. Masculine energy. But that doesn't make them men, right?
Maybe not. Helping you work through her internalized transphobia was astonishing work. We need to have these important conversations. This is the comment. How can you look someone in the face and say, I don't want a man if he's interested in you?
I will say I thought that it was so low class. Like, I agree with that. I think NeNe has a right to hold those beliefs. I think to sit there in front of someone and say that is gross. Like, I'll go ahead and say I cop to that.
In any context and not realize you're being extremely rude. I want the man that's attracted to you.
Yeah.
Once females realize that aside from genitalia that they are looking in a mirror when speaking to a trans woman, they will forever be living in confusion. Once they stop viewing trans women as the drag queens or the men they seek out playing dress up, the healing can begin. We are not competing, sis, the same.
You've probably heard about Boxable's flagship product, the Casita.
Nothing asks dudes target us, abuse us, sex us up, and unalives us. Get with it. Womanhood is an experience. If it's truly your body, your choice, then give the same voice to trans women and come out from in between your legs and in our beds, because it's clear you'll never realize the difference between identity and sexuality, because to you, your coochie is your whole identity, baby girl.
Look at the way that they talk to women, and then you want to convince them that you're a reflection of them. You're not. This is such misogynistic framing of the issue. It's not that your quote unquote coochie is your identity. It's that your life is shaped by the fact that you have one. It is. So if you believe in socialization and social identities, why does it bother you or anyone that women say, yeah, we can't discount the fact that our bodies are like this, and as a result, we have to move through the world in a certain way, and that your experience will always be different because to some degree, there's a choice there for you that is not there for women.
We're more than that, respectfully. That's right here.
That was disgusting.
Okay, we need some more comments. Male is something you're biologically born. A man is someone who carries a certain standard of himself. Just like you can be born female and not a lady. Ladies carry themselves in a certain manner. As a trans woman, I am a woman, not called trans female. Indeed, I stand by that. I don't care about chromosomes or none of the above. Y'all are not scientists at all. This info been available for years. When you want to know how to make baked macaroni and cheese, you find the recipe and educate yourself. So if you're sitting there confused, educate yourself. We are all grown. Y'all get a thrill out of disrespecting people you don't know, and I find it weird. Trolls, indeed, a lot of y'all look like a picky head doll. What's a picky?
Look at how she talks about people who disagrees with her.
Head doll. I don't know what a picky head doll is, but yeah, I think there's another sense of cis women and they're feeling in an otherwise world that suppresses them because it's under a patriarchal system. If they feel powerful when they tell a trans woman, you're a man.
No, you don't. And it's interesting that you seem to know what patriarchy is as a concept, but you don't acknowledge that the oppression that women face is to a large degree on the basis of sex and being a part of a subjugated reproductive class. Nobody's arguing over whether or not you can wear nails and lashes and wigs and all of that. No, that's not the core argument. And I think that you focus on that as an argument because it's easier to say, well, they're just jealous, or to say that they're just triangulating you, or to say that they're in competition with you. But like I said, look at a lot of the women who lead gender critical movements. Those women are not in competition with anyone who has the doll aesthetic at all. They're not interested in that at all. So then what? Then what, Erica? Like, look at, I don't know. Yeah, look at a Kathleen Stock or something and tell me that you think that woman thinks she's in competition with like a hyper feminine woman. You're gonna have to come harder with the logic, because it's not logicking.
Beat your man. They like really, you can even hear it in the tone of their typing the words. They feel powerful for being able to punch what they perceive as down. Right? So many people are punching down on cis women in a patriarchy that someone outside of that who is also just as, and if not more, oppressed and repressed and harmed because of their identities, just like you. You feel powerful in being able to tell someone you're not that. Forgetting that not so long ago there were groups of people telling you you're not that.
When was this? Because I've heard people say that historically Black women weren't treated like women, and yet when I ask them to specify that, they struggle. So I would like to open the conversation up to this a bit. I'm interested in hearing more about it.
And I get to say what you are. Like we're literally cheering for the Orange Julius to tell you there's only two genders, male and female. No shit, nigga, no shit. We get it. And then you guys are agreeing with him. Are you gonna agree with him when he stands in front of everybody and says, but if you're a Black woman, you're not considered a woman?
Why do you struggle to understand that even a broken clock can be right twice? Why do you struggle to understand that people have nuanced political views? Why do you struggle to understand that you can agree with one thing and disagree with another? Come on, Erica.
Only white women are considered women.
According to who? According to Cat Black.
Because that used to be the thing. Do you agree with that? So you gotta be careful of the shit you agree to, because it might hit you a boomerang, it might hit you square in the middle of your damn face, girl. Want to see more comments? We can't fault women on queer knowledge when our own gay men don't know about us. Queer knowledge is a privilege, and to learn it, it's a gift. To understand it will forever change you. She comes from a good place, but to change someone's perspective can be hard. That's why we have to keep having these conversations. Thank you for.
I'm glad that this person mentioned queer knowledge, because I think there's a lot more discourse around the positives and negatives of queer theory, and this is an example of that. Like this is an example of that. So Erica analyzes the world and sees the world from a queer critical perspective. That is not a perspective shared by everyone. It's a perspective that may work for you and for people who, also find solace or identity with it, but it doesn't necessarily work for everyone. It's a truth. It's not the truth. It's a way of looking at the world. It's not the way of looking at the world. So I'm so glad that she read this comment, and this comment talks about queer knowledge. That's exactly what it is. Queer knowledge. Not necessarily knowledge that is universally accepted, universally shared, universally known, or universally regarded as true. And you have to be okay with that.
Bridging the gap and sharing with us. I really like, even though NeNe, literally NeNe, it was very ignorant, right? She was looking at, I don't want that. I don't want a man. I want a man who just wants Hello Kitty. That's the conversation that needs to be had without people being upset, without people being disrespectful to each other's identity. But just like that other person said, you're literally sitting across from a woman and said, I don't want the men that want you. I don't like those men. I don't want those men. I see them as gay men. And then even if you see them as gay men, you still frowned up. So what does that say about how you feel about gay men? You still frowned. Hey, like, say, girl, are you okay?
I mean, it's a total lack of tact, but it's fine to have an aversion to homosexuality if you're heterosexual. But that aversion sexually should mean zero out of the bedroom. And NeNe, yeah, I don't know.
So you're the only one that can like dick? You're the only one? You're the only one who can like dick? You don't think these niggas is running around stupid and goofy over dick like you? They are. Trust me. I know. They acting just as dumb and stupid over dick as the women are. Cis ain't trans. It's the same motherfuckers that take us out, take me out, take her out, take everybody out. They take her out and they'll say, she tricked me. They'll take me out and be like, oh, what did you do? She heard her smart mouth. She was too masculine and unladylike. I don't know why I thought she was more educated than this. Why? Because she keeps gay men around her? You thought she was going to be educated on trans identity? No, because those are cisgender gay men. They're not trans men. They're cisgender gay men. They identify with the gender they were assigned at birth. They are men. You gonna tell me that they understand the trans identity? No, they don't. They're cisgender men. They just are gay. And I think a lot of people really believe, like, I can hear it when people say, even trans women, they'll say something like gay. But like we use gay as like an all-encompassing term that, gay is just like two men, lesbian, two women, right? So we use those terms. But when we say gay, a lot of people are just using it as a total umbrella of like homosexual, right? Let's talk about the contradiction. She's had multiple procedures to appear more traditionally female, and built her TV brand heavily using the energy and language of the gay community.
She had those procedures to appear less African in the face, or less of African descent, not more female. This is another issue I have with queer theory and queer studies, is the idea that whiteness is femininity and all else is not. NeNe, I think, wants to look racially ambiguous or have features that overlap with features of another race, not necessarily to look more feminine. They're not the same, but apparently, according to modern contemporary racialized queer theory, they are the same. And that's majorly problematic. And I actually think it's dangerous for our understanding of Black feminist thought and Black female history and Black feminist history. So yeah.
That she struggles with the idea of being in the same dating pool as a trans woman. How do you lean so heavily on queer culture for personality and profit, then turn around and say you don't date a man with zero LGBT sexual history? Come on, as if one experience suddenly makes him a man completely gay. Where's the same standard for women? We celebrate women kissing women for fun at parties. If a man admits he tried something once, he's branded for life. It's hypocritical. We need to have an honest conversation about sexual.
Yes, it's hypocritical because we live in a patriarchy, and one, because men don't lack attraction to women who do that. In fact, the majority of homosexual or same-sex pornography is produced for men. It's not even produced for women. So even content that's supposed to kind of highlight female on female sexuality is not for women. Males and females are different. Men and women are different. And so, yes, men have a different response to that. It also says something about the way that we regard female sexuality, which is that it's just less important than male sexuality. But that's not women's fault only. That's the world that we live in.
Fluidity, double standards, and what real attraction and connection looks like. Yes. This is it right here. I'm screenshotting this. Yeah. The reason he's not telling you about his dealing with trans women is because a lot of cis women make men feel like they're less than or gay for loving trans women.
No, the reason they're not doing it is because they are worried about what other men think, not necessarily what women think. They also want all the standards and trappings of heteronormativity. So you want a wife who's going to be a domestic laborer. You want your legacy via kids that you can have through a woman and through a heterosexual relationship. There are incentives and motivations for why many men prefer to marry women, to be in relationships with women, and it doesn't just come down to what women want or don't want.
We will never be free from the shackles until we understand that trans women are women, and any man can love trans or cis without being judged or having their sexuality challenged. I want you to listen to Wayne Brady.
I switched from due dates to due dates, and it made me go from weeks behind to weeks ahead of my deadlines. You see, I used to just bed rot.
Broadway, and she's going to be on SNL. I have a 2-year-old beautiful son who's going to walk in his father's light, and I get to be a proud man to represent for my son. I'm also pansexual. I discovered that recently. I embrace who I am. It's hearts before parts. I don't care what you have as long as I love you and you love me. Let's do that. So that's the shit that I'm talking. I'm a walking, talking talent machine who is filled with love. That's it.
I think we'll end on that note. Shout out, but see, people say that Wayne Brady is gay, and that's not what he is. He's pansexual. So that's what it is. So the answer is gay men date men. Whether they're feminine men or masculine men, they date trans men as well. They're not dating trans women, beloved. That's the truth. That's the truth. And like I said, no matter how ignorant NeNe's comment was, it actually cut the grass to let the women come to the front, because now they feel comfortable coming to the front and saying, oh, I agree with what NeNe is saying. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, I understand the thought process NeNe and other women have. I just don't get it. I don't know how you're not attracted.
You don't get it because you believe you are owed women's sexuality. You believe you're owed their support. And you're struggling with a lack of control over how they think and feel about their sexuality. It's because this is your misogyny to carry and your sexism to carry, because you wouldn't challenge what a man says he likes or dislikes. They wouldn't challenge it like this. Certainly not.
When you find out they're attracted to the same thing you're attracted to. I just don't get that. I said, as ignorant as it is, I'm glad NeNe expressed what so many women are afraid to say, because now you can see all the cis women who agree with NeNe. Thanks for having this conversation and cutting the grass. I find it amazing that you all have a problem with everyone's preference. It doesn't affect you all. A person cannot understand or desire something and still champion and support it. I'm a gay man that wants a man. Does not mean I don't like, support, or champion trans people. It's not about preference, it's about perception, and that's what makes it homophobia. Is it wrong to prefer a non-pansexual man? We know how some straight men get when someone finds out they fuck with a trans woman. Men like that are usually a danger to both parties. Is it wrong to say I don't want a man like that because of their patterns? Genuinely asking. No, it's not. But your reasoning is what makes it wrong. A black man who loves a white woman because they hate black women is wrong. A black man who just likes white women is not right. It's not wrong not to like abusive.
Right, but you can also assume certain things about a black man who has a pattern in which he only dates white women, and you can be turned off by that. I've met women who say they wouldn't date a black man whose dating history is predominantly of white women. Is he a bad guy? Probably not. But you probably may make assumptions about who he is or how he thinks, and that's your right to do it. You don't owe sex or relationship to anyone for any reason.
Men. But then at a certain point, society has to ask themselves, why do these situations trigger fight or flight for men? What societal pressures, toxic masculinity, are causing these behaviors? Exactly. It's not wrong for you to prefer a man who's not pansexual or bisexual. The problem is, well, I don't want to sleep with the man if he sleeps with you, that you are very nasty. It lets us know that she doesn't do trans women as women, side eye. When it comes to attraction, cishet people are so wrapped up in dicks and pussies when attraction is so much deeper than their genitalia.
But attraction is going to be connected to your genitalia, whether you choose to admit it or not. It's the bottom line. Like, at this point, this is just choosing to lie to yourself, because I've been amongst the LGBTQ and they also have attraction, sexual attraction, not just gender attraction, based on people's bodies.
This is a comment right here. The issue is that they don't want to recognize trans women's womanhood. Like Madison said, they still view them as men. And that's the only way to come to the conclusion that a man being attracted to a trans woman and cis women makes him bisexual. And it doesn't. He's still straight. Why is this conversation such a problem for y'all? Who cares? If NeNe doesn't want to be with a man that lays down with biological men, that's her choice. That's like me being mad that a man tells me he don't like black women. I don't give a fuck. NeNe represents gaps in education that contributes to transphobia today. This is how so many think, unfortunately. Yet these are the women that are surrounded by LGBTQ people on a daily basis, but clearly we see how some of them truly feel about the girls. Yeah, and I be in the comments and I click on your profiles and I look at all the gay men that y'all follow, and I'm like, ooh, they don't even like y'all.
Are trans women and gay men the same thing? Eric, I thought you said they weren't.
Ugh, I'm embarrassed. I'm so sorry for gay men content creators, because they got to know that a percentage of their viewership don't like gay men, they don't like trans women, they don't like the queer identity, but you make them laugh. You make them laugh. Keep that bullshit over there. It's not that hard. Trans women are women. Some are more passing than others. That's a whole other combo, and I don't mean any shade at all. But you do not generally look at a trans woman and think that they look like a man, regardless of their genitalia. You're not even thinking that far at first. You're looking at their outward appearance, which gives woman. So it's not hard to understand why straight men would be attracted to a trans woman. People.
If you acknowledge that some of them don't pass, then you realize that some of them don't necessarily give women, right? So, or is your outrage only kind of reserved for those that you think pass?
Make this so much complicated than it needs to be. Also, agree with your tweet. Got vet your duties. Yep. Literally that simple. Period. It's so easy. But what it is that they are holding on to old systems. They're conservatives. If I think you've been with a man in your lifetime, I won't deal with you. I don't want a pansexual man. I want a man that's strictly hetero. He likes Hello Kitty only. So that's it, y'all. Y'all get in the comments and let me know what you think. Notice if anybody gets in the comments being disrespectful, your comment will be deleted and you will be removed from the channel. Period. I just not on this one. And it's not. I was just asking a question. I understand the energy very well. You're not going to play being passive aggressive in the comments and saying things and acting. And then there's this thing where women are running around acting like trans women are harming them, and that there are no documented cases that could tell you that cis women are in danger and trans women are their threat. No, trans women and cis women have the same threat. Those straight men y'all love, they are not safe.
I'm going to respond to this later, but again, I'm going to bring up Lily Tino, and I'm going to ask, why are people bothered by Lily Tino? And what does Lily Tino's ability to move in this world as a trans woman indicate about people's comfort or discomfort about what the definition of trans is in society? But yeah, this is Erica's video. I was a little disappointed. I don't know. You know, I think a lot of people think that they sound progressive, but when you really sparse through what they're saying, it's full of contradiction. It's full of misogyny. It's full of doublespeak, I think. So yeah, let me know what y'all think. I don't know. Later.